Hi there, a bit of a different video to usual. As you can see, I'm under the sea. Why would I be under the sea? Because it's eel season. Now, why am I talking about eel season? Well, I guess I've been talking about eel season because, I know since the referendum that we had a couple of years ago, there's been a lot of backlash to some of the things that we've normally done, like having an acknowledgement of country at the beginning of a service or at the beginning of an event. And some people have said, we don't like this anymore. We decided we don't want any of that stuff anymore. Or saying it's just tokenism, doesn't mean anything. And so I've thought, well, if some people have felt like it's not actually meaningful, some people have felt like it's just tokenism, maybe it has been. Maybe it's just become a thing that we did because we thought it was respectable and we thought that was the trend and we thought that was the way our society was going. And so that maybe that was the reason that we were doing things like acknowledgement of country. I don't think that's why I was doing it, but maybe a lot of people experienced it that way. Maybe they just felt like it was the polite thing to do at that time. And in response to those kind of comments that I was hearing in some places, I just thought, well, the response to that isn't to stop doing it. I heard some people saying, well, maybe we shouldn't do it. Maybe we should only do it once a month, or maybe we should only do it on special occasions. I heard a few people saying that, and I thought, no, this is actually important. Acknowledgement of country is actually important because the point is to change the way that we think about ourselves as a society and think of the place where we live. A lot of the time, we think of this place as though we're experiencing summer and autumn and winter and spring. And the odd thing about that is that we start those seasons on the first day of the month. We say, summer starts on the first day of December. Even though usually at that time, it doesn't really feel like what we would call summer. And we say, autumn begins on the first day of March, even though usually it doesn't feel very autumnal. And even though the trees in this part of the world don't really do the autumn thing, it wouldn't make much sense to call it fall here. And we know that there's actually different seasons here to what there are in the places that people like me came from. I've found that it's been really helpful to find out a little bit about the seasons just by looking on the Museum Victoria website. There's a section for the Aboriginal Cultural Centre, Bunjalaka, which has a little bit of information just about each season. And what I've found out is that this month in the calendar, it's been a season called Eeyuk, eel season. And this is the season when there's a lot of eels in this part of the continent. And what I've learned is that this was a time for people gathering in this part of the world. The different nations in the area would gather together in this part of the world at this time because there would be a lot of eels. There'd be a lot of eels in the rivers and lakes. And they'd be really fat and ready to eat. One of the other things that I've discovered, I don't think that I found this from the Museum Victoria website. I found out this by listening to Pacifica people who live on this continent now. And what I heard was that they actually breed up in the islands, in close to places like Fiji and Kanaki or New Caledonia. So they breed up there and all the little babies grow up there, but then they swim all the way down here, down to the bottom part of Australia and down to Aotearoa, New Zealand, and they're ready to eat when they come down here. But it takes it takes years. It takes years for them to go back and forward between the islands and the great landmass down here in this corner of the world. And the eels, they're connecting us. They're connecting us to our neighbours. They're connecting us to those islands. But another thing that I heard from one of my relatives, I hadn't heard this before, but I heard from one of my relatives that eels have been important to European Christians during Lent. And it's partly because of the fact that they seem to just spring up out of nowhere. They seem to come up out of nowhere. They'd just seem to appear in a lake or in a river. And they didn't seem to breed anywhere. Nobody knew where they breeded. Nobody knew where they bred. And it's the same. That's the same here in the Pacific. We don't know exactly where it is that they breed. They're very discreet about where they do that. And so because they seem to just appear and there weren't any babies, wasn't any spawn or anything, people figured this must be a special food, a special gift from God. At a time when we can't eat red meat, God has provided these strange fish that don't seem to be born in a natural way, seem to be born without sex. Seems as though God has just provided them, as they've appeared out of nowhere. And so they've been important in European Christian culture as well. So I've been just wanting to take whatever opportunities there are to learn more about what's going on in this part of the world and how we're connected to the creatures that live here, how those creatures connect us to places a long way away that we might feel like are foreign countries. We're actually connected with them and in relationship. I guess it makes it feel like there's a lot more depth to the practice of acknowledging country. If we take the time to learn about the country, learn about the creatures, learn about our neighbours, learn about our history, all of those connections just give us a deeper sense of meaning in life. So I'm going to continue trying to find ways to, be aware of the seasons and pay attention to what is going on. And I want to invite you to do the same as well. Good place to start if you live in this part of the continent is just have a look at the Museum of Victoria website, have a look at the information that's there about the local seasons. See ya.